Right,
Femi, talk to us about what a state funeral should look like. The president has arrived at the airport now.
Well, hi, Lamle, the president has already set the ball rolling, for a state funeral for President Muhammadu Buhari, and that is by declaring a national mourning, 7 days of national mourning. Flags are already flying at half-mast, indicative of a mournful situation in the country. Here at the airport, we expect it to be a purely military event, because when the body leaves the airport to the house of former President Muhammadu Buhari, then the family members and close associates will then take charge, and that body will be buried according to Islamic rites. And that's because former President Muhammadu Buhari did not die in active service as a serving military officer. That's why that body will be handed over to the family for burial according to Islamic rite. In most cases, it is usually done according to the military rites and traditions. But here at the airport, we expect the military to take charge once President Bola Tinubu disembarks from that aircraft. He will be greeted by these VIPs or dignitaries we are seeing on screen at the airport, where they would welcome him, and then he will then be taken to the state box, where he will get the state salute and then move to inspect a guard of honor. Also, we believe there will be some brief military ceremonies. I don't know exactly where this will take place, where the 21-gun salute will be done, where these rifle salutes will be fired. I don't know if it's at the airport or it's at former President Muhammadu Buhari's residence, but these are some of the rites that will be performed for a former president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. There will also be the folding of the flag, because we expect former President Muhammadu Buhari's corpse to be brought from London, with a flag covering the coffin or the casket in which the body will be placed before it is then removed for burial. So we expect, in normal military tradition, that flag will be folded and handed over to a member of the Muhammadu Buhari family. We expect that maybe Yusuf Buhari, that's the son of Muhammadu Buhari, or any of them on ground will receive that flag on behalf of the family. And then before other rites will then be performed, and that body will be taken to Daura, with the final resting place for former President Muhammadu Buhari.
All right, Femi. Right there at the airport, we see a number of dignitaries gathered. We see former Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who served alongside the former President Muhammadu Buhari. He is there alongside the governor of Katsina State, the host governor, Dauda Diko Rada. Yes, also we've seen also the Deputy Senate President, Barao Jibrin is there. Yes. We've also seen, I did see the First Lady, Senator Tinubu, also move close there, waiting to receive the president, who would be receiving the body. The doors of the aircraft have now opened, and we see
National Security Advisor,
yes,
stepping down.
We say the National Security Advisor dignitaries are now coming down from the aircraft.
Yeah, that looks like the Secretary to the government of the Federation, George Akume there.
We also see the son of the president, Tinubu, alighting from this craft also.
The President Tinubu will alight any moment now. The First Lady, Senator Tinubu, went ahead of the president, and she's waiting. Now, the president has alighted from the aircraft, followed closely there by his ADC,
With the call, right.
All right, so that is President Bola Tinubu there, disembarking from the aircraft. And there are dignitaries waiting to receive him. President Bola Tinubu's arrival here now signals that any moment now, the aircraft bearing the body of former President Muhammadu Buhari will touch down at the Umar Musa Yar'Adua Airport for onward procession to Daura, his final resting place. Now, these are live pictures from the airport. Just moments ago, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu, touched down, yes, at the airport there. These are live pictures from the Umar Musa Yar'Adua airport there. Moments ago, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Bola Tinubu, alighted from the aircraft. The President is leading Nigeria in mourning. And Nigeria remains a grateful nation for former President Muhammadu Buhari's services. Now, former President Muhammadu Buhari has served in different capacities. He has served as a head of state from 1984, January 1st to 1985, then as military head of state, and then he came back as a democratically elected president on May 29, 2015 to May 29th, now call it 28th, 2023, when he handed over to incumbent President Bola Tinubu. We'll see pictures there of the First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu. Standing beside her, we'll see some service chiefs there. There is the Chief of the Air Staff, Hassan Abubakar, there. There is the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, there. And more dignitaries waiting to receive President Bola Tinubu, who moments ago touched down. The arrival of President Bola Tinubu does signify that at any moment now, the Nigerian Air Force aircraft carrying the body of former President Muhammadu Buhari, accompanied by Vice President Kashim Shettima, would touch down there. These are live pictures from the Umar Musa Yar'Adua airport, where the body of former President Muhammadu Buhari is being awaited. We hear music now coming from the military already. The airport ceremonies have begun. You're watching TVC News, and we are staying with our live coverage of the state funeral for former President Muhammadu Buhari, who died on Sunday, 13th of July, 2025, at the age of 82 at a clinic in London.
introduced him to other dignitaries.
You're watching TVC News, and we are continuing our live coverage of the state funeral of former President Muhammadu Buhari. We have our eyes on President Bola Tinubu, who moments ago alighted from the aircraft waiting to receive the body of the former President Muhammadu Buhari. Now handing over to our State House correspondent Femi Akonde in Abuja for continuation of this coverage.
Well, these are live pictures coming from the Umar Musa Airport in Katsina State. President Bola Tinubu is already on ground. He has arrived at the airport. Any moment from now, we expect the presidential jet carrying the remains of the former president Muhammadu Buhari to touch down at that airport, also where the body will be received by President Bola Tinubu. We understand that President Bola Tinubu, has been taken to a holding room at that Umar Musa International Airport, where he will wait for a while until the body of the former President Muhammadu Buhari arrives. But before then, we are seeing already, dignitaries gathering. It's really a bit challenging for security operatives, the DSS and members of the armed forces there to control the crowd. They also have to be very careful because, these are VIPs. And, well, we still expect that there will be a sense of orderliness here at the airport, because access to the airport is also restricted. Not everyone is able to enter the airport. If you look at the kind of followership former President Muhammadu Buhari has, if these kind of measures are not put in place, even the aircraft will not have a place to land at the airport, I must say. But, well, we don't know how long they will have to wait now until the body of former President Muhammadu Buhari arrives. But when that body arrives, we expect that as soon as the door of the aircraft is opened, we expect to see Vice President Kashim Shettima emerge alongside the Chief of Staff to President Bola Tinubu, Femi Gbajabiamila, will also descend back from that aircraft. We don't know if the Borno State Governor, Umar Zulum, will also be on that aircraft, because we saw him in the pictures in London, where Vice President Kashim Shettima went to commiserate with the families of former President Muhammadu Buhari, and also return the body to Nigeria for burial. We don't know if Babagana Zulum had maybe left earlier, just like Umar Dikurada, who was also in London at that time to visit former President Muhammadu Buhari when his death was announced. But though he arrived before the death was announced to pay his respects, check on his health, and in that process, it was announced that former President Muhammadu Buhari had died. Well, that's an airplane that just touched down.
All right, Femi, because we see that the Nigerian Air Force aircraft... Femi, very quickly, let's put you on hold. We see now right on ground that the Nigerian Air Force aircraft carrying the body of former President Muhammadu Buhari has touched down. Any moment, it will be opened, and then the body will be brought down to be received by President Bola Tinubu, who has himself said he would receive the body personally. More live pictures coming from the Umar Musa International Airport for the state funeral of former President Muhammadu Buhari. The doors have opened now. Any moment now, we'll see Vice President Kashim Shettima alongside the widow of the former president, Muhammad Buhari, that is Aisha Buhari, who would be alighting. Okay, the Vice President Kashim Shettima is out now. He's alighting from the aircraft. With the federal government delegation to the United Kingdom, recall President Bola Tinubu has sent a delegation led by Vice President Kashim Shettima that also had the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbadabiamila, to the United Kingdom to commiserate with the Buhari family and to bring back the body of the former President, Muhammad Buhari, back to Nigeria. Any moment now, we'll see family members alighting from the aircraft, and then we would see the body also brought down. We would see the military party receive the body. We'll see the burial party receive the body. And we'll see the military accord Muhammad Buhari the honor he deserves as a former leader, a former commander of the armed forces, both in his capacity as head of state and democratically elected president of Nigeria. I will see
coverage at the airport, waiting to see the body being brought out and for the burial ceremony to begin. Preparations are, everything is set for the burial ceremony today. The former president, Muhammad Buhari, is expected to be laid to rest at 2 p.m. right after the ceremony at the airport. And now the burial ceremony is expected to hold today right after the burial party at the Umar Musa Yaradua airport. These are live pictures from the airport, dignitaries trooping in as the party begins.
Okay.
This is TVC News, where we're continuing our coverage of the state funeral for former President Muhammadu Buhari, who died in a London clinic on the 12th of July at about 4:38 p.m. Moments ago, the aircraft conveying his remains touched down at the Musa Yar'Adua International Airport in Katsina. Just before then, Nigeria's President and Commander-in-Chief, Bola Tinubu, also touched down at that airport, symbolizing to everyone that was watching that he was a chief mourner leading Nigeria in mourning and being grateful to his predecessor in office for his service to country. Images now of Vice President Shettima, who accompanied the body back. He had been ordered by the president to go to London to return with the body of former President Buhari for today's state burial. We've seen the military on parade wanting to honor their former commander-in-chief at this state burial. The burial was supposed to have commenced at 2 o'clock, but obviously, with the plane touching down at 2 o'clock, they're running slightly behind schedule. But all roads seem to be moving towards Daura, where the president is from, and where he would be interred at his residence. Images of NAF that conveyed the remains from London back to Nigeria. The aircraft took off from London Heathrow at about 7:48 a.m. and touched down at precisely 2 o'clock West African time. We've seen the military on parade, waiting for airport ceremonies to commence. Earlier on, the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, also touched down at the airport, and we saw her wait at the foot of NAF 1 as the doors opened for her husband, the president, to alight, accompanied by several dignitaries and also service chiefs and Nigeria's Inspector General of Police. These are live pictures from the airport. It appears that some members of the Buhari family who traveled with the remains of the former president are still on board that aircraft. We see a lot of coming and going out of that aircraft, with people going into that aircraft. These are live pictures. We do not know how many people are still on board. A heavy presence of dignitaries at the airport, waiting for the convoy to move from Katsina to Daura. We have our correspondents at his residence and also at the airport. where they'll be standing by with live images of this state funeral that has been put together to honor a man whose service for country and dedication to duty is being appreciated today. We're yet to see or know whether the body has been taken out of the aircraft. We still have a heavy presence of dignitaries as well as the military on parade, waiting to see his body being brought out. A burial party comprising generals of the Nigerian Army, Air Force, and Navy would be on ground to receive that body and to carry his body into a waiting vehicle as they make their way to Daura, where he's from and where his residence is, to where he'll be interred. These are first images of the widow of former President Muhammad Buhari, Aisha, who accompanied her husband back home on his final journey and to his state funeral. As we said earlier, former President Buhari died in a London clinic on Sunday after a brief illness. Mrs. Buhari is traveling with some members of her family, her son Yusuf and some of her daughters, who accompanied his body and traveled from London with the head of Nigeria's delegation, who was sent by President Tinubu to accompany the body of the former president back home. So the first images we've seen of Mrs. Buhari alighting from that aircraft after it touched down just over 15 minutes ago. The state government had announced that his burial would be at 2 o'clock today, but obviously with the slight delay in the schedules, as soon as airport ceremonies are concluded, the journey to Daura will begin, where there will be prayers before he is committed. Family members are moving away from the aircraft, moving towards vehicles that would convey them to Daura. We're still waiting to see if airport ceremonies will take place. The military is standing by with a parade planned to honor their former commander-in-chief. We can see in the sea of heads the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, who arrived ahead of the president and waited at the foot of the aircraft to receive him with other dignitaries as he landed at the airport.
The mood here can only be imagined because this is a very difficult time for the family and as a matter of fact the nation at large to lose a president who served Nigeria in different capacities, particularly as a military head of state and then the democratically elected president for 8 years. The nation, as a matter of fact, is mourning. Dignitaries there, military personnel, the family, political leaders, everybody are right now looking out and looking forward to what happens next when the body of the former president would emerge from the aircraft and be received by President Bola Tinubu, who had said that he will personally be in Katsina to receive the body. And right now, President Bola Tinubu is at the Umar Musa Airport in Katsina, and any moment from now we will see that happen. The body come, and right there in the pictures we're seeing a lot of ladies in black, suggesting most likely that the wife of the former president, Buhari, is there, and the wife of President Bola Tinubu, that is Senator Oluremi Tinubu, also there, she had arrived much earlier, even before her husband came in. She had been there to ensure that everything is in place and in proper condition. Military personnel lined up. This is a state funeral. It's not just any funeral like, others. It's a state funeral. Some time ago in 2010, Nigeria had something similar to this when President Umar Musa died. Yeah, it's not exactly the same because Umar Musa was still in power, but this is something similar to that, and the mood across the country, the length and breadth of the country is quite somber and calm, praying and wishing that Nigeria will not be faced by such calamity anytime soon.
Like pictures coming from national widow of the former president Muhammadu Buhari, that's Aisha Buhari, being consoled by people around. We see the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, beside her there. It does appear security personnel are trying to get everyone to be orderly, trying to tell them where to be, even as we expect the body to be received by President Bola Tinubu, who is already there at the airport waiting to receive the body.
Our correspondent Femi Akonde earlier gave us an insight to what manner of challenge the security personnel will have today at the airport there, considering considering several factors. Number one, the popularity of the man being expected to be buried today, and the caliber of dignitaries that are presently at the airport. Femi said that, trying to quote him now, or paraphrase what he said, that if security checks are not properly put in place, the aircraft bearing the body might not even find a space to land. And that's what it is now. Okay, so Femi Akonde, I know you are still there. I just paraphrased what you said earlier. Maybe you take it up from here now to bring us up to speed as someone who had been around the functions of the presidency and has been in the advanced party of government several times. You understand what happens in situations like this. Over to you, Femi.
Thank you, Zona. Well, indeed, what we're seeing now is, just trying to cross the T's and dot all the I's before the body of former President Muhammadu Buhari is brought out of the aircraft and, taken in an ambulance straight to Daura, where the body will then be interred. But before interment, there will be according to Islamic rites, there will be the Salat of Al-Janaza. The Salat of Al-Janaza prayers will be performed for the deceased by his family members, close associates, and of course Muslims, because former President Muhammadu Buhari is a Muslim and he will be buried according to Islamic rites. But we also saw earlier when our correspondent in Daura, Lupe, reported activities from the residence or the home of former President Muhammadu Buhari there in Daura, where the grave has already been dug, the grave where his body will be lowered after all Islamic rites have been performed. We expect President Bola Tinubu to be at that ceremony, Vice President Kashim Shettima, top government officials. Well, for Aisha Buhari and some others, they will be indoors. They will not be able to go close to the gravesite when that is being done, when the lowering of the body is being done at the home of the former president in Daura. But we expect his son, Yusuf Buhari, to be there. We've also seen videos earlier of Yusuf Buhari, meeting President Bola Tinubu at the holding room of the Musa Yar'Adua airport there in Katsina State, thanking President Bola Tinubu for his support and for how he has been able to, coordinate and conduct this whole funeral rites or funeral plans, burial plans so far for his father, former President Muhammadu Buhari. Well, it's not just the nation that's grateful, even the Buhari family are also grateful, for the way this has been coordinated. President Bola Tinubu put in place a ministerial committee or a special burial committee that was chaired by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Also on that committee, we also have the National Security Advisor, the Minister of Information. I also saw the Minister of Interior and some other top government officials. They have been able to coordinate.
Body is coming down the aircraft now. From the pictures we are seeing, the body covered with the Nigerian flag is being brought down from the aircraft. We know that proper protocol is that from now onwards, generals from the rank of Brigadier General will be in charge of the body because he left service as a Brigadier General of the Nigerian Army, and that will be the right protocol. Major General, beg your pardon, Major General, beg your pardon. From now on, it's expected that activities will hasten up because between Katsina and Daura is about 1 hour, 20 minutes. And the body is supposed to be lowered into the ground just before sunset, and so it's expected things will be hastening up. We see someone we feel is the widow, and that's the point where she can get to, as we have been told by Femi, who understands this better, that the widow wouldn't be around where the body will be interred, and so whatever she would do will be around this moment, and quite a sad moment for the family and the nation at large. Live pictures there from the airport, and we are still seeing dignitaries moving down now. It's expected that the president will come close. From now, we cite the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodinma, side view of him, and the person we are seeing is rear there seems to be the secretary to the government of the federation, and a lot of them are there. A lot of the people that determine things that happen in Nigeria are there now, and that is what it is supposed to be. The widow still there?
Yes, the widow still there. And we also see the wife of the Vice President Kashim Shettima. We saw her earlier. There are pictures, more people gathered, even as we expect the body to be received now by President Bola Tinubu. All right, let's now bring in Femi Akonde. Femi, earlier you were talking about how this would go. You spoke about the fact that the widow of the former president would not be allowed at where the interment would take place. Talk to us more about that.
Well, for some people, according to Islamic rights, the widows or women are not allowed, particularly allowed to become close to where these interments will take place. But of course, they will be allowed. She will be allowed to pay her last respect to her husband before other close family associates will then take over from there and take the body for interment. But she'll be allowed to properly grieve her husband, pay her last respect, and it's when she's satisfied that indeed then the body can be taken for interment. That is when that body will be taken from her for interment. But she will be part of the whole process, and she would also have a say in how the whole activity is conducted, and she will also be able to significantly influence the outcome. But it's a sad one for the family, not just for Nigerians. We can see on screen, we saw earlier, his daughters, we saw Zara, we saw his other daughters, Fatima, they're all grieving, they're all sobbing. To them, former President Muhammad Buhari was indeed a dear father, a loving father. It means it's a personal loss for them, and if you've suffered loss of someone very close to you, you will understand what it means. So this is a very difficult time for the family of former President Muhammadu Buhari. But we believe that with all of the condolences and well wishes coming in from Nigerians, well, that might bring that soothing relief for them, and hopefully with time they will then be able to at least accept these as the will of God, as they say in Islam, inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi rajiun. So I believe that with time they would also be able to accept it as the will of God, and then move on. But it's really a mourning period for Nigerians and for the family of former President Muhammadu Buhari. I know just ahead there I can see his state chief of protocol, who was the man always moving ahead of former President Muhammad Buhari when he was at the saddle, and now he's just walking alone. Only God knows what's running through his mind. Just seeing the body of his former boss being wheeled out of an aircraft, carried out of an aircraft, and wheeled right now to an ambulance where it will be taken for the final burial at his home in Daura. You know, here also it's going to be wheeled on this red carpet where these military officers will also pay their last respect to a man, for a former president, a soldier, a former commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Indeed, Femi, we see the body being wheeled there. Just like you mentioned, the military officers would pay their respects, would also see President Bola Tinubu eventually receive the body, after which, when the event is concluded here at the Umar Musa Yar'Adua International Airport, the body would be taken to Daura, the former president's hometown, his residence, and where he will be interred.
Indeed, the body of the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, has arrived the Umar Musa Yar'Adua airport. President Bola Tinubu is at the airport waiting to see the body. You can see the body from the live pictures on the screen of the former president being reeled on the red carpet. Military officers are also present to pay their last respect. And after the event here, it's expected to move to Daura, where he will be laid to rest.
That's the procession, the body being now conveyed or wheeled by senior military officers, soldiers, the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, all of them there, obviously and certainly within the rank of Major General, which is the rank at which the former president left service. That's what it's proper and that is what is being done to a man who deserves all the respect that can be given. Covered with the national flag. The casket is, the body is covered with the national flag, and if you look properly, you will see the other items that signify that the body being carried or wheeled here belongs to a particular dignified class. We're going to see a lot of military presence here until the body is interred. I said earlier that the distance between Katsina and Daura is about 1 hour, 20 minutes. And so it's going to be quite a drive once the airport ceremony ends between Katsina and Daura, where the interment will take place. We look very closely, you will see that President Bola Tinubu had already received the body and is walking behind the casket as they are wheeling it down the aisle there. It will be very serious and deep moment for him, having worked quite closely with President Muhammadu Buhari when he was in power. Even before he became president, his emergence as the president, Bola Tinubu, then he was just a former governor, played a very active part as the leader of the APC, newly formed APC then in 2015, and he is walking right behind the casket as it's being wheeled down the aisle there by senior military officers, the right protocol for a man of this status. Quite a very sober mood for the entire country and by extension, probably the African continent. He was the head of state of Nigeria between 1983 and 1985 as a military officer, and then democratically elected president between 2015 and 2023. This is what he deserves, and this is what the entire country is offering at a time like this.
It's a state funeral honor for a man who has served
Right, indeed, Uzon, we see what is going on here. Dignitaries from far and wide gathered to honor the man, Muhammadu Buhari, whose body is now getting ready to be transported to Daura, his final resting place. This speaks of service to humanity, service to the nation. So that is what we see now. Dignitaries lined up to pay their last respects to the body. Uzana.
Yes, if you want to count the who is who in this crowd now, it will be a very difficult task. We see 7 governors, 7 senators, 7 House of Rep members, past governors, past office holders. They are all here. I cited a while ago Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who was vice president when Muhammadu Buhari was president. He is in the crowd, and this is not a time for any single individual to take the pride of place, because every attention is on the man who served Nigeria in various capacities and now about to embark on the last journey on earth. The body is about being put into the ambulance. for that journey to begin to Daura, where the final interment will take place. We see military officers carrying out that function. We know that that is what it will be for a man of this status. So it's expected that in the next hour, 20 minutes, the body will be arriving in Daura as soon as they set out. We still have our correspondents in Daura waiting to join us shortly as soon as the airport ceremony is over. We have also Femi Akonde, who had covered the presidency and still covering the presidency up to this moment, who understands what it means for the president of a nation to depart a few years after leaving office, and who understands also the protocol of how this kind of activity or function will be covered. He was there in 2010 when the former president, Umar Musa died, so he understands this quite well. He will be joining us any moment from now, but right now, all attention is at the ambulance, that the boot, the trunk is being closed, suggesting that in the next few minutes, that journey will commence from Katsina to Daura, the home of the former president. Military officers lined up there. Waiting for the body to leave the airport before they will return to as you were. The state of Katsina and the town of Daura would be wearing a completely different look from what it has been in the past. Yes, Katsina State had seen this before in 2010 because former President Umar Musa also was from Katsina State. So they had seen this before, but not quite recent. Then Daura, the small community where the former president comes from, will be receiving the kind of guests, yes, they would have been used to receiving, dignitaries before, having a son like Muhammadu Buhari come from the community, but not in this mood, not in a mood where sadness and pain and agony to some will be the right word, the right mood that they are in. Unlike what they used to have before, celebrations and all of that. Even when elections are lost, it's not like this, because this is a complete closure to the life of a man who meant different things to different people.
Indeed, he's been regarded as a leader who served Nigeria at a time of peace and also in a legacy that was worthy of emulation in many areas. This is a point of retrospection, especially all leaders, most people in Nigeria's political space. As Nigeria mourns the passing of a leader, what remains is not just the memory of this leader. Musa, how significant is this moment, especially for those who have served Nigeria like he did?
There are a number of situations where the input of a former leader becomes very necessary. There are moments when a former leader had experienced certain things and will need to guide or advise the current office holder. What this means, what this moment means, is that that chapter is closed. As far as Muhammadu Buhari is concerned, whatever tips, whatever insight, whatever guidance the current office holders will need from him, they can no longer get it. A lot of people will be celebrating what they will regard as the legacies of the former president. Whether we like it or not, he served Nigeria and has left a lot of footprints in several parts of the country that he will be remembered for. Many would argue that he was nepotistic. That's their point of view, but we have evidence. We have evidence to show that he cared for different parts of the country. One of the most people that would claim to be neglected the most now has something that several governments in the past had used for campaign, and that was the second Niger Bridge. It was a campaign item for almost all the administrations we've had in Nigeria, particularly during the democratic dispensation. But it was Muhammadu Buhari that came in and completed that project, that the regular traffic gridlock that tied people down on the Niger Bridge for several days, particularly during December period, is now a thing of the past, that people can access and travel freely using the bridge. For that alone, a lot of people from that part of the country had been very grateful and would always remember his service to Nigeria at that point. There are several other things that people will talk about that he left. He embarked on rail system, and Nigerian rail system saw a lot of revolution within the period, that you can access different parts of the country by train rather. And that was not a very cheap thing to achieve. The agriculture activities in Nigeria saw a boost. Yes, the closure of the border at some point will be seen as something negative, but it has its own positive impact, because a lot of people went into farming, and that revolutionized our agricultural sector. A lot of such instances are there for everyone to see.
Indeed, Uzon, a whole lot that can be said about the man, Muhammadu Buhari, from the Daura Emirate, who left Nigeria on the 27th of February this year to London in the United Kingdom, and now is returning in this very somber and solemn moment. He's someone you can call Daura, perhaps Daura's most important, most distinguished export, as it were. But now that community has, lost this worthy son of the soil. So it's really a somber moment. And like we mentioned earlier, we have our correspondent on the ground who will be telling us how the mood is there, and will be bringing us all the details, even as interment takes place. Any moment now, the convoy would leave the Umar Musa Yaradua. There we have live pictures of the vehicles lined up there. Any moment now, they would move, proceed to Daura, which you understand is about, okay, they're leaving already now. They're leaving already. And from there, they would move to Daura, which is about an hour and 20 minutes distance. Already we've seen the military officers pay their respects. Let's now go to Femi Akonde. Femi, the convoy is leaving the Umar Musa Yaradua International Airport now, heading to Daura. Please confirm the distance. How far is it from Katsina to Daura?
Well, it's about 88 kilometers from Katsina to Daura, and that will take about 1 hour 20 minutes, like you earlier said, depending on the speed of, the motorcade. And we expect serious traffic on that road, because I understand that a lot of sympathizers have already lined up on that road from Katsina to Daura. It's a straight road. a lot of sympathizers have already lined up waiting for the motorcade carrying the body of our president, former President Muhammadu Buhari, to pass through. A lot of them, that will be the only chance they have to pay their last respect to a man, you know, like you also earlier described him, an illustrious son of Katsina State, a man who had the opportunity to be president of Nigeria, both as a military man and as a civilian, a democratically elected one. He had the opportunity twice, you know. So it will be actually also a very symbolic and historic moment for the people of Katsina State. They will all be on the road lined up, and I just hope that, you know, the security operatives on ground will be able to control them or contain their emotions, because we expect a lot of them to be quite emotional. So we just hope there wouldn't be any incident on the road, not maybe security threats now, because that has been put under control. Even the Katsina State has been able to a large extent control, or should I say reduce the insecurity and pockets of criminalities around the state and the forest. But we expect that, you know, for the security agencies on ground now, they will be able to contain people who might might get emotional. Some of them might get in the way of the motorcade. Some might make attempts, you know, to even touch the motorcade carrying former President Muhammadu Buhari's body. So it's all of these that we expect, you know, the security agencies to look out for as they are on their way to Daura. It's also going to be a tough time for them, you know, driving through, and they also understand that the people are mourning, and they also have the right to mourn former President Muhammadu Buhari, who was the first person from Katsina State to be president of Nigeria as a military man before Umar Musa Yar'Adua came on board. He died in office, sadly, and then Buhari came back again as a democratically elected president. But just let me go back to what's happening from the live pictures. I'm quite sure of what is going on, but, you know, it appears as if President Bola Tinubu might travel to Daura via, he might go to Daura, he might board that chopper on ground that will take him to Daura. He may not be going by road, but we'll wait to see what happens. But that's most likely. I do not think he's in that convoy or that motorcade taking the body of former President Muhammad Buhari. He will arrive Daura early or earlier than the motorcade.
Let's quickly put you on hold for a moment. Senior reporter Lupe Osom is live for us in Daura to give us an update on the current situation there. Lupe, the convoy conveying the body of the former president has left the airport now, with his widow, the wife of the president, and the president himself. Who are those on ground to receive them?
Well, of course, on ground here in Daura, we have all the dignitaries. The former governors are here. I saw former service chiefs who served under the president. I saw the former Inspector General of Police. I saw the former Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar. And I tried to engage them on some of the works of the president in terms of security. They praised him. They said during his time as president, before his time as president, Nigeria recorded 8 bomb blasts. But while he came in, a lot of improvements were made, and no bomb blast was witnessed during his time as president. So we have all former governors. Everyone is right here. We have people from the north, south, east. We have traditional rulers, the Emir of Zazzau. We have the Emir of Kano is here. We have several dignitaries who are on ground. And as you can see, just now, a couple of them have left his house. That's the main building. And they are now heading to the mosque. Some of them are going to say prayers, while others are trying to make their way to the helipad where the grand prayer for the former president will be carried out. So right in his house, we have a couple of people. His family members are here, clad in black. Women are here saying prayers for him. All those who served with him, talking ministers, talking special advisors, they are here. They eulogize him. They had a lot of good things to say. So all of them are on ground. And at the moment, some of them are trying to make their way to the helipad where the prayers will be conducted. But here, as you can see, if you could watch, as my cameraman is panning around, you will see women are here. We see former ministers who served under him. They are all on ground. So this is just to give you a sense of the heavy presence of people who are here to mourn the late president. So that's what's happening. Former ministers and all of those people are around, and they will soon be moving to the helipad where the prayers will be conducted as soon as his body arrives.
All right, Lupe. Femi Akonde mentioned a while ago that the distance is about an hour, 20 minutes. So talk to us about, what the next steps are. The body arrives at the helipad, and from there, talk to us about how the prayer spirals into the journey to his residence and then the eventual interment.
Well, when his body arrives, they are going to move straight to the helipad. And after the prayers will be led by the chief imam of Daura. And after that, prayers are said, his body will be brought here. Of course, the personnel of the Nigerian army have cordoned off the area where his body is going to be interned. So that's what's going to be happening. The chief imam is going to conduct the prayer right there. And after that, they are going to drive right down to his house here. We also have information that at least 4 African presidents have also arrived, and that they will also be making their way down with the entourage that is bringing the body of the former president.
All right. Let me give us a sense of the security situation there. Talk to us about what the tablet is like in terms of security while they await the president.
I must tell you that security is tight. A lot of people are offended. They couldn't gain access into this place. For you to gain access into this place, you must be a very important person. You must have held some sort of position. You must have worked with him in the past. You must have been someone who is who is a government worker. We have former governors here. We have 7 ministers who are here. So, of course, they came with their details and their security. They came with their security details. So just to give you a sense of how security personnel have surrounded this place, recall that the former president was a military general, and the Nigerian army have taken full responsibility. The whole place is filled with security personnel inside and outside. Gun trucks have been mounted outside, ensuring that only those who should enter this place, only those who have the right to gain access into this place are permitted into this place. So security is watertight. We also have members of the intelligence community who are moving about in mufti, ensuring that only those who should be found inside this place are here at the moment. So it's not a place to come and play around. It's not a place to come and mess around, because security personnel are on ground to ensure that everything is done smoothly and that there's no breakdown in law and order.
All right, Lupe Asom, we'll be back with you in a moment. But at this time, let's take some reactions from, some people who have spoken about the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, about his impact, his legacy, and what he will be remembered for.
It has already been institutionalized by God, and the nation cannot write its history without him. Looking at the military era and the civilian era, and the monumental inroads made in multi-party political development in the country, and establishment